So this is session 2. Session 1 is on YouTube if you want a chance to go back and watch it. But session 1 was really defining a leader and what type of leader you want to become. This one's defining your organization. So setting your organizational vision and really digging in and figuring out, where you're at, what you want to do, where you want to go. And so welcome to the Leadership Mastermind for today with Cyberbacker Maryland. I'm Jeff Kuhn. I am one of the franchise owners locally. So we own Maryland, Delaware, and DC as far as our franchise operating area. I'm a leadership coach and trainer. That's how I make my living, jumping around and talking to people. And obviously working here inside of Cyberbacker and running this market. I used to work for a lot of large corporations in the Fortune 500, 100, and even top 1. And in that process, I had a lot of people that worked for me, led some very large teams. And it really became a passion of mine to see my people succeed. And I kind of realized something while going through all of that, is that when my people succeed, it actually brought me more success. It was the craziest paradox. I was doing it because I just had a passion for seeing the people around me do really well and become great versions of themselves and great leaders for others. And as I was moving them up and helping them get promoted in those markets, all of a sudden people were looking at me and look, Jeff promotes a lot of people. We should promote him. And it just gave me more and more opportunities. It was unexpected at the time. My wife was even picking on me at the time that I was letting opportunities pass me by because my people were getting those promotions. And it was pretty exciting to see the turn of events that came from it. And I started to realize very slowly and surely that this is the way that everybody should run their business in order to grow. So if you want to contact me or get in touch with me in any way, that is my direct contact information there. And you can feel free to reach out at any time. And then you probably met Shara. Shara almost goes without speaking. She's known by more people in this franchise than I am. So Shara, go ahead, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background in leadership.
Yes, of course. Well, thank you so much for that one, Jeff. And yes, I believe that Lauren and Jackie, I met them yesterday. We just had our business evaluation yesterday. So I'm actually the one who's like facing the client. I'm really what I really do is to help their businesses to evaluate it and understand what are the things that's really helpful for them to be able to hit their goal by the end of the year. So I'm really the one helping our clients to understand the importance of leverage, of course, and the benefits of it. And the goal there is to make sure that we provide the support along the way as long as they stays working with us. So yeah, I love working with clients too.
Awesome.
Thanks,
And
Jeff.
that's one of the big reasons that we're here, right? Is my goal is to help see small businesses in Maryland succeed. I didn't think Elon needed to make any more money, so it didn't make sense to keep working for him or any of those other guys. Like, I was looking at my neighbors starting businesses and some of them doing well and some of them not. And I just wanted to help lend some of that expertise to those that weren't. So this is a little bit of a vision setting session today. It's literally called, expanding your vision as a company. So in order to know where it is that we want to go, sometimes it makes sense for us to look at where we are. And so if you all to look at your business for this year so far, how are you doing versus your goals?
I'm well far behind.
Yeah. In real estate, I'm sure that's that you're not alone. It's been an interesting year for real estate as far as inventory goes, right?
Absolutely, not where I thought I would be.
Yeah. So from that perspective, are you, when you say well far behind, 20% to goal, 40% to goal, we're 7 months into the year. So you've got 5 months left, a little more than 50% of your time left. If you were to give it a percentage, about where are you at?
I would say probably about 20% to go. I think that for me, a lot of the clients who I assume to have closed, that would have closed Q1 or Q2, they have been pushed into the Q3 mark. So we've been closing this quarter, and the ones that I were anticipating to have closed this quarter look to be probably closing closer to Q4 or in Q4.
Okay. So not lost, just delayed, right? So that's all.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good sign, right? At least the people are staying engaged, and you and I know that sometimes it can get a little weary the more offers that you make and push through things, right? So
Yeah.
So absolutely. Jackie, you were about to say something?
Yes, I'm at 30. Lauren said delayed. I like to, it's slippage. The folks that I started the year working with have succumbed to interest rate fear and the like. So they're using language like, oh, I'll wait for the interest rate to fall. And, I do tell them that's not something we can promise. The only thing that I do know is that housing prices rise. So you have to weigh that and balance the extent of your goal. And so as far as listings are concerned, slippage.
Yeah.
Slippage.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. Cyberbacker is feeling the same pains. We started, it was a real estate coach that started the company. He started it for coaches, but because so many of the cyberbackers were coaching real estate coaches, or I'm sorry, so many cyberbackers were assistants to real estate coaches, real estate became the next obvious area for us to expand our services to. And since then, we've expanded to a lot of businesses. There's many, many different industries that use cyberbackers at this point. But most of them are still real estate ancillary, right? Because, we grow by referral. And I'm sure you all know that too, is as we grow by referral, when a real estate agent refers you to somebody, it's usually to title or to mortgage or to another real estate agent, right? It's the businesses that we're already working in. And so, so to that extent, we had an idea of how it was that we were going to grow, and things shifted a little bit, right? And so, so inside of that shift, and as you're thinking about the future of your company and the future of what it is that you hope to build, we know that this year is temporary, and we have much larger goals that we can shoot for in the future, and ideas behind what it is that we want to grow as a company. And a lot of times when we can look at those big goals, the big things that are coming, the big things that we're reaching for, the small intermediate steps in the middle don't discourage us, because we know that there's still big things to come. So speaking of big things to come, let's talk about those big things. This is, again, super interactive. Grab a pen, start writing some of these things down, because these are the things that are going to help you outline your next action steps on making sure that you have that you're moving in the direction that you want to move. And so it's going to feel a little bit like goal setting to the now for anybody that's read the One Thing in the past. And this is goal setting to the now for your company, and not just for you personally. And so in that goal setting to the now exercise, one of the first questions, and I originally read this inside of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? And that is begin with the end in mind. And so if we're going to begin with the end in mind, we need to jump all the way fast forward to where we want our company to be someday, right? Like, what does that someday look like for you and your company? How many people are on your team? How much volume are you doing each year? What are you doing in your life and leading the company? Are you still the one doing open houses and showings, or are you just doing listing appointments, or are you just running the parties and shaking hands and keeping up the great relationships with your clients and leading teams of people that are doing all of that for you?
Is that a question? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, my role changes, I guess, based on volume and flow. I guess to answer your question, I'm doing all of that in a nutshell. I'm doing all of that.
So
currently.
Oh, yeah, currently, right? And so if we fast forward all the way into the future, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, what are you doing? What are you doing then? How big is your company? What will you be doing in your company 20 years from now?
Well, for me, you said in 20 years from now, I would envision that.
I'm sorry, keep going.
I would envision that, my children will be spirits, kind of taking the leads of this company, since I'm building it in a way to create legacy that will then transition over to them when they become of age to take it on. So for me, it's about working with my daughters, or my children at that time, and kind of overseeing, maybe more in a CEO capacity, but definitely allowing them to deal more with the operational, the hiring, the recruiting process, and us kind of working together to from a vision standpoint, a more strategy standpoint. So from a value perspective, I would love to see, it turn into a 20 to $50 million company revenue wise.
Wow.
And and I know that's a big number, but just something that, and granted, we could be sustainable without that, but I know that I am training them now. They're seeing what I'm doing now. I'm putting I'm sowing seeds into them now. So I do imagine that, they will have the capacity to be able to grow it to that level, given the correct leadership and strategic planning.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you've used the word legacy. I love that you're thinking generationally, right? Like you're not talking about just what you're building for you. You're talking about what you're building for others, and the others being your daughters, right? It takes us into that second question there, which is, what is the impact you want to leave? Impact. And I think of impact and legacy, they're kind of on the same lines, but they're slightly different, right? Like legacy is what are you leaving to others, and impact is what difference are you making inside the community to your daughters, right? Looking at you as an entrepreneurial mom, that's an impact for sure. And the legacy is the business you're leaving behind, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I love that you said that. Great. Thank you for sharing. And I like that you took that into coaching, right? It's because, that's one of the things, and where this leadership mastermind is going to go over the next couple of weeks is, how are we coaching our people? When I became a coach, I didn't expect that becoming a coach would make me a better husband and father. And because I learned to ask questions and listen more. And through most of my leadership career, it was much more consultative, much more manager. I knew the right thing to do. I would teach people the right thing to do. And when they had questions, I would tell them the right thing to do, right? It wasn't really taking them on their own journey. It wasn't helping them to self-discover and to learn and to come up with solutions on their own. A lot of that time, and I thought I was a really good manager. A lot of that time was spent giving the right answers and not helping them discover the right answers, which I think is a big difference between managing and leadership, right? Leadership creates people with the autonomy to make decisions and come up with solutions and be resourceful on their own. And, managing is giving them the system and process, and then going back and making sure they check the boxes exactly as it was intended, right? And I'd much rather build leaders than managers, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So again, goal setting to the now. Like we looked at far into the future. Let's back that down to 5 years from now. If you know where you want to go far in the future, exactly what does it look like inside of your business 5 years from now? Where will you be 5 years from now? What's different about your business from today, 5 years from now, when you're looking at your company?
I'll definitely, have a team in mind. When I say team, let me revise that. I'll definitely be working in conjunction with people who can help me operationally run the business. So showing agents, transactional coordinators, assistants, things like that. So right now I'm a solopreneur. I'm doing everything from the start of the the, you know, the rainmaking, so to speak, to the nurturing part, to, you know, going to contract with under contract and everything in between, all the way to closing. So
Yeah.
in 5 years, I definitely like to see, you know, me pulled back from doing all of that, which is kind of where, you know, Jackie and I had the mindset of, you know, engaging with Shar and Cyberbacker in the first place, is that we're at a point now where we want to start, you know, transitioning some of those duties off, or offloading some of those duties to, you know, other hands
Yeah.
to free us up to doing more of the rainmaking work.
Yeah, it's funny, Lauren. It reminds me of a story. When I first got into real estate, and you know, just as an aside, I have my license. Other than investment properties, I've never actually, you know, been the listing agent or the selling agent or anything else to that extent for real estate. Mainly in investment real estate for me personally. And I was a TL of a market center, but I remember the agent that kept trying to recruit me to his team way back in the day when I was working for Tesla and working for Vivint Smart Home and a few of these other companies. He's like, Jeff, you're great in sales. You should be selling real estate. And I just remember thinking at the time, there's no way I would ever split my commission with anybody, right? Like, I'm not going to come work for your team. If I come work for real estate, I'm doing it on my own. And that was what I thought initially. And then I became the TL. And within a couple of weeks, I was like, why would any agent ever come do this on their own? There's so much work to do. Like, and I literally was like, you just named all the things, Lauren, that I was just like, oh my God, like there's so much to do. I'd have to start, if I were to start in real estate, if I didn't want to be on a team, I'd literally have to start with my team already hired. Because because the other pieces, or at least some concierge service, you know, obviously Cyberbacker, you know, because there's certain parts of those pieces that I just would never want to touch. Like they hurt my head even now, just saying it out loud, like thinking about sitting on my laptop and going through all the contracts and all sorts of other stuff. I'm like, nah. Like it like fries my brain. Like, I'd fall asleep. You know, I need the things that keep me active, and so I surround myself with the other people that are doing those other that other work. And so I love that you said that. I love that you talked about building the team, and you literally listed out all the activities that it is that you would need to take off your plate in order to grow. So perfect. And I bet you guys can tell what question comes next, right? So we talked about far in the future. We talked about 5 years from now. Which one's next? What do you think? The next 12 months.
Next year.
The next year. That's right. We got to back it down, right? This, by the way, and I'm going to stop sharing just for a moment while we talk about this one, because this, by the way, I think is so crucial. And this is a big part of what we're going to go into next week. But that far ahead vision, that 5-year vision, that next year vision, so many companies and so many people never achieve their dreams because they've never outlined where they want to go from a big vision point of view, right? They know what they want to do this year, or they know what they want to do in the future, but they haven't defined this year, right? So it's either they know what they want to do right now, but they haven't looked too far in the future, or they know what they want to do way in the future, but they haven't defined right now. And because of that, there's this gap on how it is they're going to get there. If they're thinking and dreaming too far in the future, they'll never take the small steps necessary to start moving in that direction. So I'll give an example for this. As a business coach, I coach a lot of people on a huge variety of businesses, from production to real estate investing, to literally running retail stores, like just all sorts of different companies from a variety of different sources. And so just as a small interruption to this, is what we find is that almost everybody I talk to, as they're looking at their big vision personally, not for their company, almost all of them say that at some point in time, they want to have some real estate investments. They want to have some rental properties, right? Something that's going to put some money in their pocket as they go to retire. And it's always surprised me a little bit at literally every entrepreneur I ever talked to. That's one of their goals. And yet for everybody on this call that's ever bought an investment property or ever helped somebody buy a house, what's the first thing you need to do if you want to buy an investment property? You're on mute,
Have
Shar.
your
What's that? You started to say, Jackie, you're on mute. Go ahead.
have your contractors have your contractors on deck.
Well,
Of course, funding
yeah,
is that
funding
very
and
first
find
is
it, right?
funding and find it, and have your contractors on deck if you need to.
Yeah,
limit it.
right. And so they're
So
not
basically,
hard
have a
steps,
plan.
right? It's figure out what the finances look like and how you're going to get approved for a loan. Is it regular loan? Is it hard money? What's that loan going to look like? How are you going to afford it? And then go find a real estate investment property, right? And 100%, by the way, 100% of the people that I've coached that have told me that real estate investment was a part of their plan, guess how long it took them to find an investment property after they wrote down the plan and said, this is something I want to go do? Less than 90 days.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm a
Right.
realtor.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought less than a year. Okay.
Yeah, less than 90 days. Because the first step is, okay, well, what do you need to do this week? Go figure out what the finances is going to look like. All right. And once they've done that, the second homework is, all right, start looking for properties. And usually within 30 days, they found the property. And then within 60 days, they're in the property. And then whatever type of investment they're doing after that, comes next, right? Are we keeping it? Are we holding it? Are we renting it? Are we flipping it? Whatever it is that we're doing, that's the next thing. One of the only clients that's ever fired me, he came to me and he said, hey, Jeff, I want to build a property management, a rental company I want 200 doors. And I'm like, okay, where are you at? He's like, I've got 20. I'm like, so we need to get from 20 to 200 by when? He's like, I'd love to be there by the end of the year. Or it might've been his 5-year goal. It doesn't really matter. But the point is he said, I'd love to be there by then. I'm like, well, this is where you want to be. And we got 180 gap. We need to start looking at buildings that have 180 doors. And he's like, what? I'm like, well, that's the gap, right? We can find some small stuff, but let's also look at the big stuff. We already know the goal. Within 90 days, he had found a property with over 180 doors that he bought. He actually jumped from 40 to 240, and he fired me. And because he hit his goal that quick. I'm like, you're kind of being silly. There's a lot more things to do, but that's okay. The point is most of the time we don't hit our goals because we haven't defined either what our big vision wants to look like and then backed it down to the first step we need to do to get there, or we know what we're doing right now, but we don't have a clear vision on where we want to go with it, right? I want to retire someday. That's not very clear. How am I going to retire? What does that retirement look like? I want to live on the water somewhere. Okay, is that an island? Is that you got shipwrecked? Is that I'm living on a mountain lake? Am I living on a beach shore? Is that East Coast? Is that West Coast? Is that Gulf of Mexico? Talk to me about what this water looks like. Am I moving to the Philippines? Who knows? But the point is write out your vision as clearly as possible for both your future vision and your this year steps. And we're going to get there to action steps in a little bit. Because when you don't define it clearly, your brain will pick something and settle on it. So if I tell people I want to make more money this year, more money could be $1. And I accomplished it. So the first question I often ask my clients when we're defining their goal for the year is, if you did that, would that feel like you won the year? Okay. And so as you're thinking about what you want your business to look like 12 months from now, I want you to ask yourself that question. If you accomplish that, did you win the year? Okay, who wants to share? What's 12 months look like for you? Which, by the way, I don't know if any of you guys follow me on social media. I do some dad jokes every now and then. So we're going to throw one in right now because this one came in handy. So Shara, did you know that as far as like what I want my life to look like 12 months from now, I started doing some woodworking. Did you know that? I started
didn't know
training how to
that.
be a woodworker. And so far, I only know a whittle. A whittle.
Okay. All
Okay.
right, it's a good start.
That's a horrible one, but it just made me think of it. Yeah. All right.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
Thanks, Jackie. Thanks for repeating that. I appreciate it. All right. So what's
I'll
it
share
look
with you
like
his
12 months from now for you?
Facebook.
Go ahead.
Okay. How can I share? As you know, I'm not totally like you. I'm not a realtor. I'm not an investor. Well, Jeff knows this, but I'm actually a singer, musician, and I'm also an artist. So I've been producing some songs. Yes. So right now, I have a lot of unreleased original songs I really want to produce. That's really my passion outside work. So in 12 months from now, I'm actually looking at, I believe I already have an album and some singles on Spotify, iTunes, or whatever streaming platforms. And I hope that I will be having a regular gig in Manila. Maybe you have heard Philippines, right? So Manila is really the capital of the Philippines, and we're having lots of musicians right there. So I really want to be part of a community wherein musicians, artists are really there to grow, to learn, and something like that. But then again, that's what I envision to myself, that I already have established my name as an artist 12 months from now. But yeah,
I
that's
love
it.
it. At Shara Giselle on Instagram and TikTok, by the way. So,
Yeah,
so,
thanks, Jeff.
so definitely follow. My family listens to her music every time she puts a new one out. So
Can you, sorry, can you drop that in the chat so that way we can?
Oh, sure. Okay, you can check it out. I believe that I have this from IG, and I'll put it right there. If you have, spare time, you can watch my videos.
You made her blush. Do you see that?
Oh,
Yeah. That was like, okay. But yeah, you can check it right after this, okay?
nice. Thanks,
That's right.
Shara.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
Okay, for each of you, what's your next 12 months look like?
So I'll share 12 months. So I'm based out of the northeastern corner of Maryland. So I currently cover Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania. And I just got my license in Florida. So I passed my exam and everything. And I have my first listing coming up. So I am going down there to interview brokerages, get that sorted. So 12 months from now, I would ideally like to have a person on the team who is, at least one person who is full-time in Florida. So that way, there's always someone there. There's always someone there. And then I have a couple people on the team up here. So that way both areas are getting the best client service.
I love that. Talk about a great way to write off vacations. So no, I mean, pick a place that you want to spend more time in and get your license and start building a business there. Amen to that. Love that. Thank you for sharing.
Yep.
What part of Florida are you focusing on?
In the Keys.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Good.
Okay.
So hiring somebody in Florida to be full-time by the end of the year. An admin team working out of Maryland, or are you going to have any offices or admin down there too?
I'm probably going to keep everything for my team up here, depending on which brokerage I go with. I'm looking at probably affiliating with a local brokerage to start, just to get some more local knowledge and things. And then my brokerage up here, we're in a heavily water-oriented area of Maryland that's very big on fishing. So we have a lot of sort of client overlap for second homes and things in Florida, particularly the Keys. So my broker is actually getting his license in Florida as well. So I'm going to kind of learn from the other one, and then I may wind up rolling everything to my existing brokerage, or if it's going well at the new brokerage, that might be my, kind of trial piece to change everything up here. But it'll probably, I don't know if it'll be 12 months from now, depending on the learning curve for things down there.
Sure.
It might be 2 years to consolidate that into one name.
Good. Good. Great. Okay. All right. Next question. You guys ready? I mean, you guys can share if you want to, and as long as you've written it down, we don't need to share every single one of the ones, but I want to jump through here. So here we go. This is, all right. So if you've never used the goal setting to the now sheet, let me know, let Shara know. I've got one already saved. I have it as a Google sheet if you'd prefer to type it online, or I have one that you can print out and carry with you. Certain times, there are certain things that I'd love to write down, and goals is one of them. So if it makes sense to you, you know, I've got my goal setting to the now sheet, by the way, pinned on top of this dry erase board that you see behind me. So on the far right-hand side of that dry erase board has a magnetic clip, and my goals are written there. You know, it keeps it front and foremost, where I do my stretches and stuff in the morning, just to the side of my office all the way over there. And it helps me keep fresh and see my goals every single day as I go to get moving. So let me know if you need a copy of that, and we'll get it sent to you. In the meantime, we've identified what we want to do someday. We've identified what we want to do 5 years from now. We've identified what we want to do in the next 12 months. So looking at your business today, what do you need to accomplish that? Carolyn just listed a bunch of those things out in her own. If you haven't thought of what's holding you back, like what's that first step forward, what do you need to accomplish that 1-year goal? There's a good book called Who Not How. And a lot of times that's the next question, right? It's what do we need to accomplish our goal? And then how are we going to do it? But as that book says, a lot of times it could be a who is going to help us with that task. Many, many times we start running into obstacles. We start running into obstacles because it's not against our normal part of our nature. Actually, Shara knows this gentleman. I used to run a regular call, and on the call, I was coaching coaches on how it was that they would build their coaching business. And in that process, I would ask them what they plan to do for lead generation. And anybody that's ever read the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book knows that there's like 30 different things you can do for lead generation in the MREA, right? Between marketing and prospecting, like 30 different things. And how many things do you need to do when building your business to grow your business well? How many of those things? Like most.
There weren't many. There's a handful, but you just do them consistently.
Yeah. Right. Most people build their business in 3 to 5 ways, right? There's 30 different things on the list, but 3 to 5 are the things that build like 90% of your business. And so if we can do 3 to 5 things really, really well, then we're going to be able to grow our business. And so I'd always make the joke, because this is how most of us here, we need to build our business, is cold calls as we're trying to get our name out there. And I always make the joke, and I ask people to raise their hand, how many people like cold calls? And the only person who would ever raise his hand for that on this call was my cyberbacker, a guy named Frank. And he loved cold calls. He loved calling new people. He loved just interacting with them and learning about them and hearing more about them. And he had no fear about doing it. And he was the only person ever to raise his hand when I asked that question. Most people hate building their business that way. And so he was my who, right? Like I knew how I needed to get there. And I knew that I didn't really like to do cold calls. So I hired a who to do the cold calls for me while I was working to spread into a new area that I hadn't yet. Now, meanwhile, what do I like to do? I like to network. I like to shake hands. You know, I like to get out there and just make my face known and do these events. I'd much rather stand on a call and talk to you all about your business than pick up a phone and call people that didn't want to talk to me. You know, that's what I say in my own head, right? So to that extent, like this is a great way for me to meet new people, and I'm sure you all feel the same way. But if you're looking at your business, what is it that you need to accomplish that? Who will you get to help you if you need a who? You might already have the who, and they just need to be assigned the task, by the way, right? But if you don't have the who, if you don't know the what, write those down. We can also jump on a call some other time and chit chat about that if you're running into your own obstacle on what's next. Next week, we're going to look a little bit more at finding unicorns if it is a who that you need. And so remember, just like in this goal setting to the now sheet, as you're looking at what it is that you need, write that down next to part of your vision, right? Again, the first step that a real estate investor needed was to find his funding or her funding. Go look at properties. First step that somebody that wants to run a marathon needs to do is get off the couch, right? There's always a small step in the beginning that's going to get us there. So what's the small step that's going to get you moving? What do you need to start doing to get it? And then who do you need? So speaking of the who, and speaking of goal setting to the now, we also have an org chart handout that's available for you. And this is going to be part of your homework. You've identified what you want your company to look like someday. So here's a chart that helps you look at someday. Fill in the blanks. It doesn't have to look exactly like this. It's just, you know, an example, right? Cross off, X off the positions that you don't need or the wings that you don't need. But what does that look like someday? And more interestingly, where do you fit on this circle? Right? You might not be the blue CEO at the top. I was coaching a business owner at one point in time that realized he was tired of running the business. He didn't want to run the business. He was much happier as a sales manager. He liked a small group of salespeople that he could work with, and he could just go out and do the things. As the business started to grow and get more complicated, he realized it was more headache than he wanted to deal with, but he still wanted his business to grow. So he hired a CEO over himself. He ended up being 3 down inside of his company after a couple of years. He was literally one of the managers overseeing a small team, and he had a sales director over him who reported to the CEO. Which I thought was really wild and very introspective for him, right? I mean, he took a portion of the pie as an owner, but he also took his own salary as the sales director or as a sales manager. So pretty wild to think of. So here's one. We've got a worksheet that you can print out or again fill in online. Someday to now, what does that look like someday? What does that look like 5 years from now? What does that look like 3 years from now or 1 year from now? Okay, and here's where we move into action steps. All right, we're in the final 10 minutes here. And so we've spelled out our vision. We know what we want to do. We know what we need in order to accomplish that over the next year. So what are those first steps for you? Somebody come on and share. We're going to get off this call. You know what you need to do in the next year in order to hit your year goal. You know where you want to be. What are you going to do this week in order to start moving towards your 1 year goal?
Well, I know for me, I'm going to, start planning for 2024. So that would mean, starting my lead generation method for 2024 in Q4. So implementation will start Q4. So kind of having a business retreat with myself to see, what I'd like to tackle for next year, getting those systems in place. By the end of this month, I will be back to being a dual career agent. And so I want to ensure that I have some type of systems in place for once that happens, that I can start implementing in Q4 so that, I can continue with what I've been doing, but now I'll have to be a little bit better with, I know how we talk about the one thing, but multitasking the one thing and going from there. So.
Yeah, I love that you said that. And I know that you just hired a cyberbacker. And so I actually had a client.
No, I haven't. No, I don't have a cyberbacker yet.
Okay. Well, I apologize. But you just had the BE with Shara yesterday. That's what it was.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, perfect. And so in that process, like I had a client on Monday just tell me this. So she just started a new job, and in this new job, she was given a task. She's about 60 days in, and she failed at this new task. She didn't do it right, and she did it poorly. And what was interesting is she did it because of a gap in the process written down, the SOP, right? So they had the process written down on a sheet of paper, and the person that wrote it for them, for her, like she's the first person ever having this role. So
Mhm.
this business manager wrote out the process but she wrote it out based on her understanding of it. And what they didn't do together was go through it together to make sure there weren't any questions inside of the process. And so as a result, there was one step missing that the business manager completely understood, and it was just so obvious to her, she didn't even think to write it down. And when this new employee went to do it, it never went to completion because that was that one step missing. So I love that you pointed that out, like getting the systems and processes on paper, and that goes with the org chart, right? Because as we define, Lauren, you started this call by saying you did everything, right? Yeah. So right now you own all the systems, you own all the processes. And so recommendation from me to you, as we're building this out, what I've seen a lot of success in for a lot of people is that as you're doing the work, start recording yourself.
Yeah.
And then as you're training somebody, watch the recording of yourself when you're doing the training, and have that person write it out based on what it is that they're understanding that you're doing, right? So now they've spelled out what they've seen you do from a different set of eyes than your own, because and then while you're watching it with them, you can be like, I didn't say this out loud while I was doing the video. Make sure you write this down too, right? Like, and so you get to critique yourself, they get to write it out, and now we all have an understanding of what that system and process looks like. And what makes that fun is, as you're building out your org chart, you own 5 or 6 different jobs right now. And so you're going to start coming up with systems and processes that you can filter into each of those job positions, right? So some of them we know are transaction coordinators, some of them we know are listing agents, some of them we know are showing agents, right? Some of them are marketing and concierge services, whatever it might be. And as you're doing it, write down which job would it be that would take this over, and what is it that we're going to teach that person how to do as we begin to grow. So that's a great way to start building a great foundation for expansion. Love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. So everybody have an action item, something that you're going to do this week to make sure you start moving in the direction that you need to go in order to accomplish what you want to this year? All right, so here's the homework. If you haven't done this yet, build out your 5-year org chart. And then using that org chart, identify which position on that org chart is the one that you need to hire this year. And it could be 12 months from now, could be 13 months from now, could be next month. You know where your goal is, you know what it is that you're working to accomplish. But who do you need to hire within the next 12 months? And in order to start building out that future org chart, which position is the linchpin that's going to make everything else easier when you bring that person on in order to start building the company? Shara is my linchpin, by the way, right? There's no way I could do the Cyberbacker without Shara. Just perfect honesty. Everybody here has had a chance to meet her, and Shara and I talk every day almost. I mean, at least by text. All right, we're on the phone 3 or 4 times a week, and we via text and email every day. And I often refer to her as my director, and I'm supposed to call her my growth backer, but we know how that works. So who's your linchpin that will be crucial to start moving towards the 5 years that you can bring on this year that will make the rest of it easier? And again, we've got a org chart that we can send out to you as well, so that way you can fill that in. So circle that position. Next week, we're going to come back. We're going to start looking at how to find a unicorn, right? How do you find and hire talent? Because obviously we've got to build out our vision. Then we have to find and hire talent in order to start leading talent. How do we keep the talent engaged? How do we hold them accountable? It's where the whole leadership mastermind is going. But first things first, build the plan, identify the talent that we're looking for, right?